afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have some questions about change.org. So
Sure.
how can change.org contribute to actual societal change?
So Change.org is the biggest petition and campaigns platform of the world. That means 50 million users use Change.org to start and win their own campaigns. And basically that's already the answer to your question. On Change.org, every citizen of this planet, of this world, can start their own campaign and get support from others and raise their voice and get the attention of decision makers. And I think that's a value to democracy, or increasing democracy.
That's true. And in which settings are those campaigns successful, and in which settings are they rather not that successful?
Yeah, so the most successes we see are, and that's probably not surprising, on a local level. I mean, the idea of hyper-local campaigning, addressing issues that are close by to your place of living, where you basically have your everyday life, makes the most sense, because I think this is where people can contribute with good ideas and solutions in a very good way. But we also see campaigns being very successful on a national level, and sometimes even on a global level, even though the more higher we get in the scheme, the more complex obviously issues become. And I think it's also very clear to everyone that an online petition, or even a campaign around an online petition, cannot always address all levels of complexity. But that doesn't mean it's not good. It just means that...
Is it necessary to live in a democracy to start a petition?
So Change.org is an online platform, and it can be reached internationally. So you can start petitions from democracy countries or from countries where you have no democracy. So that doesn't necessarily isn't a boundary, but obviously that the pressure that might be in countries that are more oppressive with non-democratic structures is much higher, and you'll probably think twice whether you start a petition or not, for the sake of your own security. But yeah, literally it's possible, of course.
Okay, and to your mind, how can it be ensured that online petitions are not only selectivism, that people think they click and they save the world?
Yeah, so I think there is an interesting misconception of online petitions, because people kind of verwechseln, how do you say that?
Confused?
Yeah, people confuse it with the old petition letter that you could gather kind of signatures on paper with. But an online petition is so much more. An online petition is basically the modern tool of organizing your protest. So first you start the campaign, and you give the campaign a home. That's the online petition. Then you find people who will support your cause. People that maybe are not in your hometown, but at the other side of your country, but that are interested in the very same cause. And then, because you have their digital signature, their email address, you can then reach out to them again and organize from there on. So you can do telephone demonstrations, you can do Facebook bombings, you can do real protests on the streets. And that is the extreme benefit of an online petition, that it organizes your protest and your campaign.
So does every campaign or petition needs a physical component?
So there is never a petition without a real human being out of flesh and blood that has a real issue or problem to address, and a real decision maker or a group of decision makers, that could be politicians, that could be companies, who actually can fix the problem, who can help to make the situation a little better. So there is no online petition that is just online. For every online petition you need a real issue in our real world, obviously.
And I would like to talk about the legitimacy of those online petitions a little. So how can you ensure that those voters are reliable and that they are real, and on the other hand also ensure their privacy?
Yeah, so it's a bit like asking whether citizen engagement is legitimate. The online petition is just a new form of citizen engagement. It doesn't mean that the citizen engagement hasn't been done before, but now the barriers to engage yourself is being lowered increasingly. The resources to start a movement are so incredibly low with the internet. So basically the legitimacy is, if you think that citizen engagement is legitimate, then an online petition is legitimate. And there's also an extreme important distinction we have to make. There are online petitions that are part of the legislative process of a country. So for instance, in Germany, we have an official petition committee by the parliament, and you have to reach a certain threshold. There's a verification of your name, and then your petition can be heard in front of a certain petition council. This has not so much to do with online petitions you start on change.org. Those are more basically the home to a full campaign. that is not addressing the petition council of your local authorities or the parliament, but is a campaign in its own.
Okay. So, to close the interview, where do you see democracy on a global scale in 10 years?
That is a really, really tough question, and I wish I had the answer. I'm probably just going to give you my gut feeling. I think with the ultra connectivity that our world is reaching, so just bear in mind that by the end of 2013, 40% of all citizens of this world will have access to internet, and 90% of all citizens of this planet will have access to mobile technology. So I don't think it will take that long until we basically bridge those two technologies, the digital access to internet and mobile technology, and create a truly connected world in developing countries and Western countries everywhere. And I think the more participation is possible, and because of the internet there is more participation possible, the more democracy, or the idea of democracy, will evolve and will become the dominant, or even more so dominant, in most countries of the planet. And that is at least my sincere hope that this will happen.